Previously on the wacky world of MultimediaJay.
I'm running up against a wall when it comes to the progression with this Silver Bullet 2000 project. I absolutely want my old disc copy of Morrowind on this machine, but I have no idea where it is. Corelvin? Forgot that was a thing. You know what this reminds me of? You ever see the South Park episode about the brown note? I did make a college project, the mock newscast in a broadcast media class. Half-hour mock newscast. It was kind of like, if you could imagine myself and a couple of college buddies acting like we work for The Onion, that's basically it in a nutshell. ULEAD Video Studio 10 Plus. The Elder Scrolls Morrowind Game of the Year Edition. So you can see what the beauty of a system like this truly is. Nostalgia, for one thing. Drives are more than big enough to have multiple logons representing multiple periods in computing history for you. But also compatibility. If, for example, I have a piece of software that doesn't handle anything other than Windows XP very well, install it on here.
The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
As much as silver is a retro color for computers and stuff like that, the Silver Bullet doesn't look all that bad in dark mode lighting. Turn a little bit of an accent off to the side, and turn a little bit of an accent light, and yeah, not bad for an old silver machine from a time when silver and two-tone were more popular than they are right now. We're going to need a little bit of real light for tonight, though, so let's turn that back on, and let's take a look at this little eBay find right here. We're going to use the college logon for this. So up to this point, so today we're going to tie up the loose ends with the Silver Bullet 2000 project. There's a couple of things that I need to correct the record on, because it's been a while, so I forgot some very important details or mixed them up. I also picked up this keyboard from eBay to complement the original IntelliMouse Explorer 3 from back in those days that I still had lying around. Some of you folks may recognize this keyboard from pictures of the Geek Suite from college that I might have posted on other social medias, such as Twitter, or on the community page. So, there's a couple of things I want to take a look at. First off, I set the display drivers to show the old square screen resolutions without stretching out the screen. So 800 by 600 to play Morrowind, like I did back in college, is going to show up as 800 by 600 back in the day. Also, I got the floppy drive working. We're going to do a boot, we're going to listen to that nice floppy drive sound. But the real star of the show is this keyboard right here. Let me open up Notepad, and let's see. Yep, let me open up Notepad, just so we can have something to type everything to. This is the HP SK2506 keyboard. This was the pack-in keyboard with HP Pavilions around the start of the millennium. This was the keyboard I had in college. Number one, I can't believe these things are still on eBay instead of in tech recycling gaylords somewhere, because how old they are and how they're basically pack-in membrane keyboards, so nothing too exciting. Number two, I can't believe I was able to find one on eBay that didn't have too much yellowing going on. You know how plastic yellows as it ages and stuff like that. Maybe the seller that sold me this out of California retro-brighted it or something, but the problem with retro-brighting this keyboard is that you're not going back to a white color, you're going back to kind of a grayish color. And I see a little bit of yellow here and there because it is a 20-year-old keyboard. But the reason why I got this, issues with plastic changing its, chemical changes in the plastic and whatnot aside, the reason why I got this is to complete the ensemble of the retro gaming experience. This keyboard is the distant ancestor of the keyboards I buy nowadays, with the volume knobs, the media buttons, and a big, huge thing with a wrist rest and everything. This is the distant ancestor of those. I had one of these in college, as evidenced by the photos I put up and stuff. But like an idiot, I got rid of it because I thought USB was better. And I spent years using Microsoft Digital Media Pros, then the Microsoft $20 keyboard when the Digital Media Pros were discontinued, and then moving on to ASIO, eventually ASIO Mechanical, and that's what I have today with the light up stuff and things along those lines. So leave it to some nostalgia for me to go to eBay in the first place, never mind hunt down the keyboard I had 20 years ago and pick it up, and spend like almost the cost of the keyboard on shipping just to get back part of the retro gaming experience I remember from college. Let me see, ASDS, let's test all the buttons out here. Let's just hit enter here. It's a membrane keyboard. It shouldn't be losing individual keys. Caps lock works. Oh, that's right, the apostrophe, you gotta hit shift in order to go to quotation marks. I was gonna say, buttons work. How about the number pad? Not bad, if I do say so myself. It is a membrane keyboard, but it's one of the better membrane keyboards I've had over the years. The issue is it's not USB. It requires a PS2 port. So leave it to something like this to get me to deliberately look for a PS2 keyboard. And the question I guess some folks might have is, does the volume knob work in Windows XP right off the bat? Well, yes it does. How about the mute button? Yep, the mute button works too. What happens if I hit the play button for CD, DVD? Doesn't open Windows Media Player. How about if I close that and then... Nope. So, I think that's the issue. There used to be a special driver that you needed in order to get the media buttons working. I think they might work in Winamp, though, if I played something in Winamp. How about the standby button? Yep, here we go. Preparing to stand by. And we've standed by. Duh. The lights are still on the keyboard, though. Well, we're back in business. Sort of. I think we have to click back in. Ah yes, standbys never work as intended in Windows. That's why I don't use them.
Epic fail.
Yeah, whoops. I don't have a very good track record with Windows' standby features over the years. So the computer got into a giant standby loop where I wouldn't get my screen restored until I hit the standby button again, and then I'd get like a second of Windows XP before it went back into standby because I hit the standby button. So yeah, I've gone through and I fixed up the buttons so that pushing it opens the shutdown menu instead of actually putting the computer in standby. And then I shut it down instead of logging off. But while the computer is off, and I'm like an awkward little idiot here, let's take a look at this keyboard. This was my college keyboard. So membrane, spacebar was a little floppy and big and stuff like that. Media controls, volume control way back in the day, so you just had something to turn down the computer. This one's a little rougher than its successors, though. Number pad, etc. But this, by and large, was the keyboard I played Morrowind with. That's one of the key reasons why I went looking for this. I'm looking for a retro setup to play games from the 2000s and maybe stream some OG Morrowind on OG hardware in Twitch's retro section. Retro seems to be what I'm gravitating towards in terms of Twitch streaming. It's where some older streamers can be found, and the most important part is you're basically reminiscing on games you've already played or used to play if you are in that category. And that's the sort of thing with Twitch's technical limitations and stuff that I could probably have the most fun with while streaming everything else on YouTube. But I figured if I was going to go all retro like this, why not just say, hey, eat a sunk cost to get my old Morrowind keyboard back. So It actually had some interesting features too. So you flip this over. This was the pack-in keyboard with the HP Pavilions from around the start of the millennium, made for Windows 98 and NT. Model SK2506. Yeah, I don't feel like turning it right side up. We had the two things, of course, that would always break off like on every other keyboard out there. But there's also this mystery switch over here. And what this would do is this would extend a third little leg thing so that if you are on an uneven surface or something, or you wanted to lift up the front of the keyboard or something like that, you could actually use that to kind of, lift it up a little. So it's kind of like this. I never really could find a good use for it and whatnot. It's a slider though, so you can adjust the height. You can adjust the height of how far out that thing goes, or something along those lines. Either way, I've taken these things apart before. I just as soon leave it all the way down like this. So yeah, playing Morrowind with ASDF, hit F2 to save, F4 to load. They should all be pretty familiar. Now, let's check out that floppy drive. I got a floppy cable as well, so now this thing will actually make noise as part of the boot up. Ready? Let's do this. This silver computer looks really nice in Geek House dark mode. Ready? And one more when it goes to Windows. There we go. And back to XP we go. So we have all the retro sounds from the startup, even though I haven't used floppy disks in many, many years. Now, just re-enable the floppy drive for that. The only way that I could make this any more retro is if I knocked this out and put a zip drive in here, a zip 250 drive, but I don't have any zip disks either. Just, I know that zip drives could often sound like, crickets or something when they were starting up, or something else. I had 3 zip drives, if you can believe that, in college, because flash memory was still not very mature as a technology, and it wasn't very well established like it is today. So, flash cards, compact flash, etc. was still kind of new at the time. All the college computers, though, had zip drives. So I started out with one of those blue zip drives that was implicated in the infamous Click of Death lawsuit. And then there was, then I got a portable USB one, which sounded like someone scratching records on a turntable. And then finally, when I built the Silver Bullet, I used to have an internal zip drive. That thing sat in the closet for years, and unfortunately, I scrapped it. And so we have a situation on our hands where retro computer hardware is kind of like old video game systems. You get rid of it thinking you're done with it, and then years down the road, you want it back because you're trying to recapture some kind of retro feeling. Well, anyways, speaking of recapturing some kind of retro feeling, let's play some Morrowind with this thing. Just a tad cramped. Just a tad cramped because this keyboard is actually turned down the volume. Can't do it in game. Just a tad cramped because this keyboard is actually bigger than most of its successors. But yep, this feels like, other than me hunching over instead of sitting back in the chair, it definitely fits the bill in terms of retro experience. 60 frames per second, we get the FPS on screen if we really wanted to. There we go. 60 FPS once everything's loaded, but you actually do get frame drops here and there. You should have some problems here and there with using the space bar to jump because it was a little bit big. So, but yeah, retro Morrowind. Rest until healed. Don't get attacked by a rat. Let's go take out another bandit, the Adamus Sardis Cave. I actually got to stream this game for real over on Twitch in the retro section, because modern games with super mods, I think, nope, here comes the wizard. He's probably going to kill me with a single fireball, because I only have 45 health. So, get way back here, and let's wait for him to blow all his magicka. Yeah, so if I played this game with a super mod, that's why magic characters, if this game had PvP, magic characters have lots of problems with needing to lead their shots and, you know, do hit scan and stuff. There is no escape. Yeah, maybe for you there isn't. Stupid RNG-based combat where you swing a sword right through the guy and it counts as a miss. Let's see, this guy didn't have anything good on him. Nope. Yep. It is kind of different, though. Well, familiar, I should say. The problem I always have with coming back to, like, old controllers and stuff, the problem I have with going back to old peripherals in any way, shape, or form is that the plastic could have chemically changed through the same processes that cause yellowing. And, of course, you get older. Maybe you don't have the sense of touch that you used to, or your hands are toughened up from doing work for years and years or something. Take fire damage, right? What? I don't know. Rest until healed. Go take out that thief down the end with the throwing weapons. But that's really the thing is, I mean, you can bring back the equipment, but you can never bring back the experience. Alright, here we go. Oof. I brought a sword to a gunfight! Long blade to 46. Stupid! Well, they're bandits anyways.
It is now 2 a.m.
Whoops, forgot to turn off the robot. Either way. So yeah, I mean, you can bring back the equipment, but you just can't bring back the experience. So it'd be cool to play with all this retro equipment, though. So that's what I'm thinking of doing, is the retro category over on Twitch. So have this OG retro system streaming with this equipment on Twitch, and then if I install the game with a modern super mod, like Morrowind Rebirth or something, play that on YouTube on Monolith. But yeah. Quit without saving? Yeah, well, anyways. I also brought back my Windows inverted cursors, not just on here, but also on Monolith as well. I haven't used inverted cursors in many, many years. But I used to like, you know, the color change and always being the opposite color and stuff like that. It's been a while. There was a time when Windows 7 had better looking cursors than Windows inverted, so I used those for a bit. But yeah, this keyboard is very retro. This keyboard is very retro, and it completes the look and feel that I'm looking for with regards to the retro experience. Darn spider tripod. With regards to the retro experience in Windows XP. So I got some other plans for Windows 7, but for now we're just gonna have Silver Bullet, Windows XP, Silver Bullet 2000 projects. So let's come and bring some games over here. Come over with some games and install whatever. I screwed up the darn speech because I got like come over or whatnot and the bring over. I had a long night at work. Plus, the postman woke me up when he delivered this because he bangs on the door until I answer it so the package doesn't get stolen. So it's jarred awake at like 9, 10 in the morning. Not good for a night shifter. But, right. So, we're going to go get some more retro games we want to install in here. I definitely want to install Battlefield 1942. So, let's go get that. Well, that sure turned into a Walmart trip. Some of you folks may need some explaining with that reference there. You know how when you go to Walmart and you say you're going to get like 1 or 2 things and you come out with a full shopping cart? That's kind of sort of what happened when I went over to the shelf and looked for some CD-based games. But in terms of this whole retro system and whatnot, including the joystick that we'll talk about shortly, yeah, making the Silver Bullet into a retro system basically means there are lots of games that I can install on this thing and play offline. And it's also streaming potential in addition to retro gaming potential, because I'll be playing these games on the original hardware. So, one thing we can take a look at here, of course, is Battlefield 1942. This is the Game of the Year Edition style complete collection, obviously from years later because it's in a DVD style case instead of a cardboard box like games were back in the 2000s. I don't know why it took PC game companies so long to get over the whole cardboard box thing. I mean, PlayStation 2 did just fine with DVD containers. So did, and so did the Nintendo GameCube and whatnot. If I sound congested, it's because I put an air can to that keyboard and found out the hard way there was still plenty of dust in there from wherever it's been sitting for however long and whatnot before I got it off of eBay. So hopefully I don't have like dust mites in my house from California or something now. But anyways, yeah, Battlefield 1942, the complete collection. Battlefield 1942 would be a college game. Battlefield Vietnam, also included in this, would be a post-college game. Actually, Battlefield Vietnam I pretty much missed because this game was... it was too much for the Silver Bullet at the time. It was the first game I ever had where I needed to upgrade my system in order to get it to run at an acceptable frame rate. I think it was the graphics card. This is back when NVIDIA was really struggling, and I think I still had a GeForce 4 or something when like the Radeon 9700, 9800 were crushing it over on the ATI side. Pre-AMD takeover. That probably doesn't work as well as when I do that on stream. But anyways, that, of course, meant that I degunked the Microsoft Sidewinder joystick from the Silver Bullet era. The last time... yeah, we're going way back. That's a Sidewinder Precision 2. The last time I used that joystick on a regular basis, Tech TV was still on the air. The reason why I have it, Battlefield 1942. Whoever, when you got into the planes, whoever had the joysticks would shoot down everybody who didn't have joysticks. It's just the way it is. When you got into a dogfight, you could easily find out who was flying a plane with a controller. So yeah, we have that's available, but we also have a lot of other games as well. Unreal Tournament 2003, yes, I picked that up. I also have the Totally Unreal collection for regular Unreal Tournaments, and because the non-forward thinking, and who can blame them, developers of Quake 3 Arena put the CD keys right on the front of the case, I took the covers off for Quake 3 Arena and Quake 3 Team Arena, the attempts to compete with Unreal Tournament back in the day. And Neverwinter Nights Platinum along with the DLC. Oops, stuff's falling off. Neverwinter Nights Platinum along with the DLC Kingmaker and some other stuff. Anachronox. This game stopped working when I got a scratch on one of the discs. I'm wondering if I get it working on the XP machine. I think I get that on Steam these days. We can't really do anything with it, but we can look at the old 2005 title screen for the original Guild Wars. The last sports game I ever went out of my way to buy, EA Sports' MVP Baseball 2005, from after the Red Sox won the World Series for the first time in years. Maybe there's a roster update for that out there, like a mod or something. That's the way they are with these old games. Command and Conquer Generals. Picked this up, never really played it too much because I was a fan of Red Alert. Command and Conquer Generals, I don't know why I never even played this game very much. I kind of had that problem with PC games back in the day. The original Command and Conquer Red Alert for Windows 95, so we got this as well. Surrender is not an option. The original Command and Conquer Red Alert for Windows 95, so might need an older machine to even get this to run these days. There are modernized versions like Command and Conquer the First Decade, but I still have the original games, so why not play them? Command and Conquer Red Alert 2. We could also set up an XP drive for Midnaughts too, if we wanted to like completely have completely overpowered hardware for Windows XP. But I think Midnaughts has too much RAM. So let's see, Command and Conquer Red Alert 2, as well as Yuri's Revenge. Remember playing those back in the day? Because actually before I really started playing with a lot of 3D, when I only had a TNT 2 card, I actually had I basically played RTS games like the Red Alert series. Field and Stream Trophy Bass 3D. Return of the Incredible Machine Contraptions. I have this game on Steam nowadays, and I have some of the older Incredible Machine games on GOG. But I did have the box version of this one. Always like the puzzle game, stuff like that. Revolt. I don't have the original case because the guy that didn't want this in college just gave me the CD and the instruction book, no packaging. But PC games came in boxes, in cardboard boxes back then, so. 4x4 Evolution 2, kind of like you could say it's a distant ancestor of me playing Test Drive Unlimited and eventually The Crew 2, Forza, things like that. 4x4 Evolution 2, I had the original 4x4 Evolution, but it was kind of blah. 4x4 Evo 2 worked a little bit better in terms of Windows XP and that sort of thing. This is one of those games that I think I had to mess around with to get it to work after the XP era. So the last time I bought a flight simulator before the one that came out last year was Flight Simulator for Windows 95. And of course Grandia 2. I saw it was an RPG on PC. I also have creaky chair. I also have PC versions of Grand Theft Auto 3 and Grand Theft Auto Vice City, as well as PC versions of Final Fantasy VII for Windows 95 and Final Fantasy VIII for Windows 98. I used to have to do a lot of messing around with sound fonts and stuff to get anywhere near a PlayStation-like experience, though. So I think my Final Fantasy days on PC are over, unless I play the remake whenever it comes out on PC, as well as the Steam release of the game that brings back the original sound fonts from the PlayStation hardware. Now, in terms of controllers, that's what I'm really stuck on at this point. I might... let me go see if I still have the Logitech Rumble Pad that I used to use. Otherwise, we're going back to the Wingman Action Pad, which is really, really old. But I remember I used to play Vice City on a Logitech Rumble, on a Logitech Wingman Rumble. Let me go see if I still have it in one of the storage ottomans. Yeah, thought so. I knew it was still around here somewhere. Logitech Rumble Pad, and I actually have one that's also pre-Rumble. So, yeah, this is just one of those controllers that's been sitting in a drawer for way too long that I would never use on a modern system because today's machines are compatible with Xbox controllers. But if we want to keep things vintage, the hardware needs to be part of that as well. Just gotta find some drivers for this thing, because I remember Logitech used to have game profile software for these old controllers too. It's probably still lurking in some dark corner of the internet somewhere. But there you have it. We basically have a full-scale resurrection of sorts of the kind of gaming hardware I would have had 20 years ago back in the 2000s. Whether for college or post-college or original XP if you want to see the whole Bliss thing and whatnot. That's the fun of one of these projects. The fun part of one of these projects is that if you have old hardware sitting around that you can't justify using on a modern system, well, in order to be period appropriate, you can appropriate it, haha, see what I did there, with a retro system. So there's plenty of gaming and streaming potential here. Now, let's move on to some of the other things. And well, this is PC gaming in the 2000s for you. You'd always keep a stack of CDs somewhere near the computer so you could easily switch games and things along those lines. But yeah, so this is basically like, you know, if this were the Blues Brothers, it'd be like getting the band back together. We have the keyboard, we have the OG mouse, the OG keyboard, OG controller, joystick, Windows XP machine, and some decent hardware that's actually a little ahead of what was available at the time. So in terms of getting the experience again, we have it. Now let's take a look at some other stuff that I've been planning to take a look at with this machine and move on with these finishing touches, so to speak. So at some point in the last 20 years, I had some harsh chemicals or something take the paint off of the silver sheen, so to speak, of this old Dragon case. Been some other problems too, where some things kind of scraped off the paint and things along those lines, but the silver bullet is not as silver as it used to be. There's scratches and some other stuff. However, the thing is, in this day and age where, you know, things are damaged and you have basically nothing to lose, why not have some fun with a paint pen? I picked up the silver gold paint pen collection from Walmart. We're going to try the silver one on the silver bullet. See if that makes things look any better. After all, you know, what's the worst it can do? Make it look worse? It already looks worse because of the missing paint. Okay, so I'm guessing, yeah, that's something you shake, kind of like getting paint from somewhere. And it's kind of like a paintbrush with a, you know, porous thing on the bottom. Never used one of these before. I've seen them, but I've never used them before. Alright, let's see how this works. Does it have to bleed through the thing in order to... let's see. I think I'd better read the directions.
Epic fail.
And this is why you read the directions when you have no idea what you're doing. That presses down. So you should be able to just do this. Shake the paint up, then press it a couple of times to get it to saturate the tip according to the instructions. Ha! Nope, I'm missing something here.
Epic fail.
Finally, got some paint to come out. Let's see here. Ooh. Let's go over. It is darker than the original silver. It is darker than the original silver, but if we get it to where it doesn't blob up as much, it actually should cover over this quite well. Short of getting some real paint, this is probably the best we can do. Let's go over some of these. Oops. Yeah, let it dry. Let's see. Maybe we could buff out the excess too. Let's try going over one of these scratches. Oh, this is interesting. A weird, kind of a weird way of trying to make a case look better. Yeah, so this got scratched a little up top. That got scratched there. And here it is. Don't know if we need this for the metal. Oh yeah, it sort of works. Oops. Just gotta be judicious in where you put the paint, not put too much of it on there. Let's grab the paper towels and wipe off that excess. That just made it look worse again.
Epic fail.
Well, that sort of works. Some of the scratches have been covered over by that pretty well. The splotch in the middle, though, I think could look a lot better. The issue is that this is paint, so paint has to be allowed to dry. So I don't know if maybe coats of paint would actually improve that. Here I am talking about putting coats of paint on an old computer with a paint pen, not even a proper paintbrush or anything like that. Could always repaint the case if I really wanted to. So I just want to experiment with a paint pen to keep everything low maintenance and experiment with coats for like small dings and scratches and stuff. Looks like the dings and scratches fared better in terms of blending in than the spot where the paint kind of got worn off by mistake by chemicals. Either way, we'll let it. How long is this? I gotta find out how long it takes to dry. Now, speaking of tedious stuff, there's one last thing we should probably do before. Yeah. One last thing we should probably do before we get this thing ready for prime time. Let's take an image of the machine with just Morrowind on it and all this other stuff, just in case something happens. Considering how long this took the last time, the paint will probably be dry on the door by the time this finishes loading. That didn't take as long as before. Maybe something else was going on. Mixed results on the paint pen, but it's at least not as noticeable. It looks more like smudges than being all and out scuffed. Alright, let's get out of this fake Windows 7 environment. Nice. Alright, so let's get back to Windows XP. This is I just cannot believe how much fun I'm having by essentially bringing back my college computer like this. This is an idea that I've been tossing around for quite some time now. See, I think if I close this, it shuts down. Yep. I just can't believe it. You know, something this simple has been this much fun. What should I do next? Retro bright that thing for the yellowed rubber on the bottom. What I could do, actually, if I really want to mess around with stuff, IntelliMouse Classics are pretty cheap. Get one of those, buy a broken IntelliMouse for parts, and then swap things in. No. It shouldn't be necessary, but there we go. Yeah, it's just crazy, you know. I mean, it's nostalgia, yes, but I was looking over the retro categories as well over on Twitch. I think definitely, you know, I just got to find a way to teeter this thing on top of Monolith in order to play some stuff like that. And of course, I have to play some stuff. Hey, I said it right for a change. And then, of course, set everything up for the capture box to essentially capture what's coming off of the console. Let's go to post-college. See some of that nice electric blue for a change. I didn't end up installing any other games, but I have them all here. I'll just walk them over and pop in the CD. And it really, you know, it speaks to the convenience. That speaks to the convenience of gaming with today's Steam account-based stuff and things along those lines. That it's just so easy to start a random game versus having to dig up the disc and stuff like that. Makes me wonder if I should just get out of console gaming and only do downloadable stuff on all the boxes that I have. I have like a box that I essentially use as a gaming PC in a different form factor. Where's the robot? I'm doing this in the middle of Vendalia's stream. I'm just trying to think if there's she's streaming ESO as usual. Twitch.tv/Vendalia.
Good morning, Jason.
Hi, robot.
Today's date is Tuesday, October 5th. I'm ready to work.
Woohoo! I can see, unfortunately, that the processor is in the 40s as far as temperature goes, so I might have to do something about the thermal paste on that thing. The maximum temperature before it starts thermal throttling is only in the 50s Celsius. Let me bring that up on screen here. Yeah, so core temp, it's 57 degrees. So I don't know. Is this thing running as... Let's go to the power control panel here. Is this thing running as a desktop? No, it's in portable laptop mode, so it should be throttling it. If it can throttle, so it's at 2.4 gigahertz. I don't know if this processor can throttle. I think that's one of the reasons why I ultimately went to Core 2 Duo, was more power and more power efficiency because of Intel's speed step. So the motherboard, I think, has some stuff for that though, like AMD Cool and Quiet and stuff. But this is locked. It is not throttling down this processor, which is weird because AMD Cool and Quiet is a thing. I wonder if I would have to install some more motherboard drivers in order to fix that. Huh. Wait, did that just flicker? No, it's locked at 2.4 gigahertz. It's an old school computer. The processor only runs at one speed. Whatever.
You are being paged.
I need that as an alarm.
If you check this, I may become very dull. I'm glad you came to your senses. Oh no! Do you want me to be that dull? I'm back, and you won't be sorry.
Having a little too much fun with this. I also used to use Merlin with a really deep voice for time.
I see it is 4:44 a.m.
Oh yeah, remind me I should be getting some sleep.
Jason, my clock says it is 4:44 a.m. Jason, the time is...
Where's the custom one that I put in? I used to have this dumb thing where I'd have it say every word 3 times.
I see it is 4:44 a.m.
Unfortunately, it's randomly selected, so...
Jason, my clock says it is...
Nope.
4:44 a.m.
This is where...
Jason, the time is 4:44 a.m.
This is the part where the room would be like, dude, what time is it?
Jason, the time is it is 4:46 a.m.
That freaking long, just to get it to say a custom message.
Epic fail.
Primitive 2000s ancestors of today's digital assistants aside, there was one more thing I wanted to talk about with regards to the finishing touches on the Silver Bullet 2000 project, and maybe more of the paint can dry while we're at it. Oh, that looks better than it did before. It looks more like running paint or something, as it kind of is, as opposed to the paint got worn off and stuff. So, Windows XP. It's been so long, and my creeping decrepitude, aka old age, was getting to me. So I've kind of forgot some details because of how long it's been. So let's clear everything up with just what happened with blah blah and blah blah here. Whatever. The Silver Bullet was originally a Windows 2000 machine to save on costs. When I built the Silver Bullet, I just set it up to run Windows 2000 and Windows 98. My copy of which I was already running on my HP Pavilion that I retired at the time. So my HP was a Windows 98 machine, and I installed an upgrade version of Windows 2000 in order to dual boot the two OSs. So when I built the Silver Bullet, in order to continue having the dual boot that I already had, I had to buy a copy of Windows 98, so that way when it asked for a disk and whatnot, I could put in the Windows 98 disk because the HP recovery CD wasn't going to work. So the Silver Bullet started out as a dual boot 98 and 2000 machine. Now, when I got sick of Windows 2000 being business only, and everybody around me was getting XP, and we were going through that phase where the solution to all of your computer problems was get XP, I finally got XP. A Service Pack 1, this rattier one is my college one. These are not both from college. Windows XP was my preferred OS in college, eventually, once it got established and was started to go mainstream. So, the rattier XP is from college. Much like the theme with this system being college and post-college, the rattier XP is from college, the near mint one is post-college. Basically, I saved money by getting the academic edition of XP Professional when I was in college. It wasn't an upgrade that I saved money with, it was getting the academic edition because I was still eligible for the academic license. But when Windows XP was heading towards being discontinued, when that was going on, Windows 7 wasn't out yet, it hadn't proven itself yet, and all we had seen was Windows Vista. So I didn't want to feel like I'd have to buy a copy of Vista, especially with Windows 7 coming out. So, and I was also worried way back in those days, that my Windows XP license might give me some trouble because of, I bought it when I was in college and it's the academic thing and whatnot. So just for the heck of it, I went out and bought one more copy of Windows XP. I do have an old vlog that I could fire up on stream or something like that from when XP was discontinued. I actually have a couple of them from when Windows XP was discontinued. We could go over them on stream and do like a giant reaction or something along those lines. And that's one of the things I want to do at chat streams, by the way, is react to older videos. So it could be a fun thing to do. But in terms of Windows XP, that's really what the issue is here. These are not both from college. It was my OS of choice in college, but I do have a post-college XP copy, which I bought close to when XP was discontinued. So we basically have everything. I mean, this is basically 2000s PC gaming in a nutshell here. A tower with a graphics card, joystick, gamepad, stack of CDs, and an optical mouse, because you don't want to be like having to clean a ball mouse or anything like that. Although this wasn't a USB keyboard. See, and this is really cool. I really like that I was able to find this keyboard in such good condition on eBay, of all places. So it was really cool that I was able to find one of these. So, yeah, back in the day, I threw mine out because I was like, why should I keep using a PS2 keyboard when everything's USB? Well, ha 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 ha, who's laughing now? Just like with people seeking out old consoles, I have sought out old gaming PCs to bring back essentially a retro experience. Oh, I hear cars already. Yep. Why would someone be redlining their car at like 4:45 in the morning? Are they trying to wake up the neighborhood? Whatever, man. These people who think their car is fast just because they can drive it in a gear that's too low and make a bunch of noise. How come my engine blew? Well, gee, I wonder. So, yep, this has been pretty fun, actually. So the next steps for this are, I'm going to install some CD games, and I'm going to hook this up as a second computer over by Monolith. And then we'll look into streaming on Twitch in the retro section. So that way, if I play Morrowind on this machine with how limited it is, we can do it in the retro section in like 800 by 600 with these peripherals. And then if I want to play it with a super mod like Morrowind Rebirth, we'll basically run it on Monolith and stuff like that. So definitely, I see why people that build systems eventually turn around and build retro systems like this, because it's a lot of fun and it's kind of cool to, return to hardware that you gamed with for so long. So, and to have some of it still around because you didn't get rid of it. So, cool stuff, man. We'll have to do this with Windows 7 a little later on, but I've got some plans for that. We're not going to spoil anything here. Alright, well, let's turn all the lights off here because the silver bullet looks pretty awesome in GeekHouse dark mode colors. The light one is the hardest to turn off. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about right here. Oh yeah, look at that. Just looks pretty nice. It'll probably look even more nice if we turn off the glare by turning off the system. So, one last shut off before we head on out here. Oh, and this thing is still on, this camera is still on automatic mode this camera is still on auto mode, or not on one-touch mode from when I was doing light mode earlier. Let's turn automatic mode back on. Hope this hasn't made this video look totally like crap, but it'll probably turn on low light mode now. Yeah, I put on macro mode and everything. Geek House Dark Mode looks pretty cool on the Silver Bullet, as well as its similar lighter colored peripherals. Focus! Yeah. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.